Hi, this is Big V. It's Thursday night, and it is 2019. This is the first Thursday night of the lead call with Charlie Moore. So we're going to join into the call. I'm going to dial in the number, and we're going to listen to tonight's call. And here we go. And by the way, we will be starting Facebook our Facebook event on Wednesday, January 9th. This is January 3rd of 2019. And so our Facebook event will be beginning again January 9th of 2019 at 9:30 a.m. on social media. All right, we're going to go to Charlie Moore and we're going to find out what's happening. So let's dial in the number. So enjoy the call. I'll be right back after the call is over. Don't you dare go away. Here we go.
Start meeting. Share better. Please enter your access code followed by the pound key. Please wait. Please enter the reference number followed by the pound key. Enter the pound key to listen to recent. Please wait while we prepare your files. Press 6 to fast forward for 1 minute. Press.
Anyone else want to say hello? Everybody out? North Carolina. I love it. Oh, email address. Well, I didn't give you the whole thing. So, and the reason I'm starting a whole new list is it's hard to keep this list fresh, and I want to have it brand new and fresh for the year. But also, I'm planning on using this for a lot more reasons than just the reach out. So it's, I'm thinking about using it also for like a news and update letter, maybe once a week or something, so that it'll be used for a lot more than just names and phone numbers. Maybe it's going to be like a news thing also or something, or an update about what's going on in the society or something. So occasionally you will see more than just the list come to you, but other times it'll just be an announcement or something. So if you want to, even if you're on the old list, put this email in and leave me all of your information, your name, phone number, state, and email address. And it is C, the letter C, More, M-O-O-R-E, options, O-P-T-I-O-N-S. That's what I gave you last week, but I forgot to put the 68 behind it. So it's C, More, options, 68. And that's at gmail.com. And I'll give it again. C, More, M-O-O-R-E, options, O-P-T-I-O-N-S, 68 at gmail.com. So now you will be able to, because I was wondering why nobody responded. Well, you got the right email address. So that was a little faux pas on my part there. But we all do make mistakes. And also on the healing list, which I am going to continue this list because I think Steve would be happy about that. So but if you have yourself or someone that you know that needs some healing powers, then just either send it to that new email address or you can call me, and my number is 215-350-8905. I'm sure most of you have my number. It's been out there for a lot of years. But anyway, I'll give it again one more time. 215-350-8905. And then there's one more thing that I want to talk about before we talk about what I'm going to talk about. I was talking to someone today on the phone, and we were talking about the new year and how to look at things, and how to look at things with a different angle of it. A lot of people make resolutions this time of year, goals, and usually by January 3rd or 4th or 5th, it falls apart much, maybe a month from now or something. Most of us don't keep those like we should, but it just doesn't. But I think it would if you can look at things differently. And the person I was talking to, this is the first time in a lot of years that she can look at this year a lot different than for like the last 20 years. So it's exciting because now she can think more about herself than she could prior to this for over 20 years. And I believe she said this first, but yeah, as soon as she said it, it was like, great, because we were talking about some other things, and it's how you phrase things. And I think the phrase means a lot when you put more of a spin on it, more of a positive spin. It's like, yeah, I'm going to have a great year this year. Well, that's not really, it's like saying, I may have a great year, maybe I won't, it doesn't really matter. There's no commitment to that phrase. I want to have a great year this year. And then some people will say, well, I'll probably have about the same year, and they won't be into it. But when you think about what you really want to accomplish, I mean, if you really dig in deep and you say, this is what I want to accomplish this year, and hopefully you wrote them down. But let's say that you wrote down a lot of stuff. Or maybe just wrote down 2 or 3 things. It doesn't matter. But how much do you believe that you can achieve those goals, that they will happen for you? So you could always say it this, you could say, why can't this be the best year of my life? Now, to me, that's saying, because when you ask yourself a question like that, why can't this be the best year of my life? It's going to make you think right away. You're asking yourself this, hey, Charlie, why can't this be the best year of my life? That's going to make you feel, you know what? I got to ask myself that question, and I got to answer it. And you start answering why this is going to be the best year of your life. Because now you're going to put down the things that you think that you're going to need to make that happen. Instead of just saying, this is going to be the best year of my life. I'd rather ask myself, why can't this be the best year of my life? It's that way, for years I heard people say, well, yeah, I was going to come to the summit, but I just can't afford it this year. But then the same person said it the year after that, and the year after that. And as long as you're saying that you can't afford something, it ain't going to happen, because you will never ever to be able to afford it. But if you put that in a different light and say, what can I do to make that happen? What can I do to afford to go to the summit? That's a personal question right to yourself. And now you can sit there and say, well, all right, well, what can I do? What can I do to have enough money to go to this summit? So like the first thing I would do if I asked that question was, well, how much is it going to cost me? I come up with like a ball, so basically I would check the air, like if I had to fly to the summit, I would check the airfare and see about how much it's going to cost on the airfare. You're going to know how much the hotel costs, because we're going to let you know that, and we always get at like the cheapest rate that you can get it. And then food money, I'm probably going to need about $100, $200, whatever it is for food. And now you have a ballpark, so now you're going to say to yourself, well, geez, you know what? It's going to cost me roughly $800 out in airfare, hotel, food, and the fee to get in is probably going to cost you about $800. So let's say this is 8 months before the summit. All right, so I have 8 months, come up with $800. So that's about $100 a month. Now, can I get $100 more out of my budget? Well, you go through the budget. Are you spending money that you shouldn't be spending? Or are you spending something that, I really don't need to spend that every month on this? Maybe if I cut out, maybe you have cable, but every time you rent a movie, that's more money. Well, maybe for the next 8 months, you don't rent a movie on cable. So that's another $3, $4, $5. And if you do it 3, 4 times a month, hey, it's like $30, $40 right there. Things like that, so that now you're starting to feel better, because you know what? I think I can pull this off. I think if I really try and tighten the budget here, and if you keep saying that you can't afford something, where every penny of your dollars are going. So it shouldn't be hard to put down the budget and say, can I trim anything off of this? If you can't, you can't. But at least you tried it. But if you can trim off $5 here and $10 here, it adds up real fast. That's how we should approach every problem that we have. What is the power thinking solution for this? Go back to the self-leader program. It's the same thing. But it's just going after it by just asking yourself a question. You know, it's like, well, you know, I really want to open up a business. Well, why haven't you found, you know, then you have to say to yourself, well, what kind of business do I really want to open up? You know, and just, because that's going to automatically make you think. And that's what this whole talk about is today. It's about thinking. But if we don't ask ourselves, why do I keep not being able to afford it? Because you keep saying that you're broke. You know, I don't have the money. I can't afford it. I can't afford it. I can't afford it. Well, guess what? You will never be able to afford it, or I can't do that. Whatever it is. I just know I can't do that. Well, of course you won't. But if you say to yourself, what's really stopping me from doing that? Because I really want to do it. But what's stopping me? Why can't I do this? It's always going to come back to you. And when it comes back to you, answer that question. And give yourself something that you can believe. Like, don't lie to yourself and say, well, you know what, I really don't want it. I really don't want it that bad, so it's no big deal. But what happens if you do? Then go after it. Say, all right, this is what I want to do. Now, what do I have to do to achieve that? And then you start writing down, because it's going to make you think, and you're going to start writing things down. Now you're starting to believe in yourself. Because it all comes back to self-love. If we don't love ourselves enough, and we should be loving ourselves more every day, but the self-love is three things. It's about your body and what kind of shape is the body in. It's about what's inside of you, the feelings that you have for yourself. You know, it's a physical, emotional, and I just went blank here. Spiritual, all right? Those three things is what makes you up. So if they're all being short of where you'd like to be, then start working up. Because the more that you see yourself as a person that's moving, as long as you start, because the more that you get integrated, the more that you're going to love yourself. And then after a while, you're going to really feel really good about yourself. And you're not going to stop now. You're not going to ask those same old questions. You're going to ask these new questions. That's what it's all about. If you don't love yourself, you're not ever going to move forward because you don't think it's worth it. You don't think that you're worth it. It's all how we think. It's that mentality that we have to have to turn things around. So why can't this, for all of us, be the best year of our lives? The only one that's going to stop you is you. But why can't it be? And answer that question. And with that, I think I'm going to start talking about, I end up going to Neo-Think Advantage 112. And that's vertical thinking, horizontal thinking, and dreaming. And I've learned a lot just by reading this for the last couple of hours. And I think it's really fascinating because it really does narrow in on what I was just talking about. But Franco Wallace says here that vertical thinking is thinking within the known boundaries of knowledge. All right, so it's staying not inside the box, but it's staying with what is known today. And that's how we start to put some ideas together. But we just know now that we are just dealing with the known boundaries. And vertical thinking is developing thinking that leads to forward development of knowledge. So it helps us build more knowledge. And that's such a key for anything that we want to do. The more knowledge that we have, the better that we feel, the more confidence we have. Knowledge is power when you use it. So the more knowledge that you have, the more power that you have. But integrated vertical thinking develops the depth and the richness of life. So now you throw the integrations in there. We start to fulfill ourselves. We see deeper into ourselves. We have deeper feelings. Because many areas of life, from business to romantic love relationships, have vast potentials for rewarding development through vertical thinking. So it's not just one part of your life, it's for all parts of your life. It's for, if you're in business for yourself, the more vertical thinking that you do, the better off you'll be. And it goes all the way to a romantic love relationship, whether you're married or you have a partner or whatever, that develops more and more because both of you now are using vertical thinking. You're both becoming integrated. What better way to spark a romantic relationship, a love relationship, a true love relationship? So everything has vast potentials. And it'll give you many rewards by developing your vertical thinking. That's the foundation right there. The more that we think vertically, which is basically thinking with rationality, it's thinking with logic, common sense, that's vertical thinking. That's the basis for everything. Now let's look at it from horizontal. Horizontal thinking is thinking beyond the boundaries of known knowledge. So this is like basically saying we're thinking outside the box now. We are thinking new thoughts that no one else has ever thought before. Outside the box, outside of the known knowledge out there. Because horizontal thinking is creative thinking that leads to new ideas, values, businesses, thoughts, experience, humor. Now, when I read humor, I'm thinking, well, that's a little different. And he has a footnote here, Frank R. Wallace, and he says, effective humor is created through horizontal thinking on formulating surprising, unexpected ways to look at something. And it really is. Because, like, if you come up with a joke and nobody else ever did, that's horizontal thinking. It makes people look at things a little different. The swinging back and forth from the expected and conventional to the new and unexpected is the essence of humor. So people who are either stand-up comics or funny people that you know, they are thinking horizontal thinking. And then he also states here that this is in reference to Concept 109 in the rise of Neotech. So I looked up Concept 109, and it says, humor classification versus sense of life, a test for humor. And I'm not going to read the whole thing here. It's just basically, he says, humor is basically a product of lateral or horizontal thinking. Through horizontal thinking, a new and unexpected way to look at something is developed. This surprise contrast between the conventional view and the new unexpected view is the essence of humor. So he carried, basically the 114 advantages were based on the concepts in this book. It's amazing how everything just ties together here. He also says that the nature and form of this newly created view reflect the soul and the sense of life of both of those who create and those who respond to that particular humor. So it doesn't make you just think in a horizontal. It also makes the people who hear it that humor. And maybe they start looking at things a little different because you made a funny about something. But then they start to think, well, wait a minute, that makes a lot of sense, though. So with Neothink and with Neotech, all individuals are free to think and function to their fullest. And that's what this is all about, right? Us thinking to our fullest. Us thinking and looking at different things. And what has helped me look at Neothink different and Neotech is that I've been mentoring these calls for years. And I mentored basically every book that Frank R. Wallace has put out and Mark Hamilton. And the challenge that me and Steve always talked about when we were doing this, we did over 1,500 calls together over the years. And we never lost the edge on it. We always felt that we were giving the best that we did. And there was a lot of reasons for that. But the one was we were constantly trying to think of new ways to present this information. Not just the same old. And I know I got a little better at that over the years. And so a lot of times I would sit and I would read a chapter over and over and over, even though I knew all the information. And I was trying to find that different look. Because if I look at this one way, maybe one or two people on the call will get what I was trying to say by looking at it in that light. And then if I use, it's like I'm not always going to walk in that front door of a house. Because that's just the same old way of entering the house. But what happens if I came in the back door or the side door or I climbed through the bedroom window or something? Now it's a whole different look. That's how things start to, because I want to help everybody on the call. Steve did too. But if we all just gave it what's like right out of the book without talking about what's in there, what's in between the lines, you're not going to get it. Some of you will, but some of you won't. So I'm thinking about at least every night, if I can get at least one thing to everybody, it's a big success. And I know I'm not doing that every night, but you try. And that's what kept these calls fresh for us, because we just racked our brains out trying to figure out other ways of looking at things. And humor is definitely one way of doing it. And I've been told I have a great sense of humor, and I think I do. So I do look at things a little odd sometimes, but it is a funny way of looking at it, but yet it's a very integrated way of looking at it. And it's just a different way, so that makes it maybe a little funny, but it comes up with the same result. It still has a lot of rationality in it. It still has a lot of logic in it, and it does make sense. It's just a different way. That's all. It's a different quote about it or whatever that makes it different. And as they say here, we are free to think and function to our fullest. But being free from mystics and neo-cheaters, individuals guiltlessly become responsible for their own lives, thinking, actions, and well-being, and happiness. And how many times have we heard that word happiness? About 1 million times from Frank R. Walton, about 1 million times from Mark Hamilton. It's in the prime law. The goal for us is what? Real simple. Be happy. We're supposed to go through life every day, all day, being happy. Obviously, that's not the way it is today in this world. But we want to be happy. So for us, we have to really function to feel free to think at our fullest. And look at things vertically. Look at things horizontally. Look at things through the eyes of humor. Because he says here on the bottom of the page, except for the moral responsibility to one's dependent children, no one is morally responsible for anyone else's life, well-being, or happiness. In other words, as parents, yes, we are concerned for our children. And we have to raise them, and we have to take care of them. But once those kids are out on their own, now the only people that we have to worry about now to be responsible for is our own self, is our own life, not anyone else's. And no one should have that responsibility of being for you, to have those feelings towards you. Because we're all been raised, everybody cares for us. Well, people might care, but they're not responsible for you. And believe me, when we get out in that AC world out there, we know that the government's not there for us. Most of our family won't be there if we really need them. Our friends will vanish most of the time when we really need them in a time of need. Most of the times, we're on our own. We might not want to think about it, but we are. So the more responsible that we are for ourselves, the more that we are constantly thinking and creating, we can take care of ourselves. We won't need somebody else. But the whole world today looks for what? They look for government to take care of them, or the church to take care of them, or their parents do, because how many kids are still at home after they graduated college? And that goes up every year lately. So most people in this society take no responsibility for themselves. So if they're not taking responsibility, how can they feel happiness, or romantic love, or prosperity, or never-ending knowledge? How can they feel all of those things if they aren't responsible? Because they don't think. Because most people in this world today don't think. It's a crime. It's a crime against humanity for the elite of this world not to teach us how to think. It's an injustice to every one of us. And I think it's even more of an injustice for our children. When our kids are graduating out of high school or college and they know nothing, they can't even write their name. They might be able to print it, but they don't even know how to sign their names anymore. It's so out of control. So they're coming out of college, dumber than ever, unfortunately. And then they wonder why they can't get a job or that they have to start working and be responsible. And that's a shock to them. What do you mean, Dad and Mama, that that you aren't going to take care of me anymore, that I can't live here? Okay, so what happens when vertical and horizontal thinking combine with rational action? All right, we are thinking with both sides now. We're thinking vertical, we're thinking horizontal, and you combine that with rational action. Okay, the logic, the common sense. Happiness and romantic love evolve from an ever upward spiral of earned power and prosperity. And that is what? Happiness. That is what we are thriving for. That's why we came here. It might not have been the first word that we thought of when we came here, but we're constantly looking to be happy. Isn't that the best part of your day, when you feel happy? And what happens when a day goes by and you didn't feel happy? That nothing happened to you today that made you happy. We should never have a day like that. But yet we all have had them. I know my days are getting less like that, but I still have a day sometimes, once in a while. But it's pretty odd now. I have to stop here for a second and say this again because I am overwhelmed by it. I am overwhelmed by the response that people had after Steve died. I got tons of emails. I got tons of calls. And I noticed after a couple of days, people were saying to me, and the first thing that they said to me was, Charlie, how are you? And then we would talk about Steve. And it didn't hit me for a couple of days. And then I realized most people, that's what they were saying to me. And it made me feel just this almost overwhelmed of love coming from people and the thought. And it was actually making me feel happy. It really helped me get through this grief. And it's going to take me a long time to get over it with Steve, but it's just, I felt this love that I knew we all had here, but I never felt it so strong. And I really, from the bottom of my heart, I thank each and every one of you for the thoughts and the energy that you sent me over these past couple of weeks. I felt it every day. It got me through some tough times during the day, but I tell you, I never felt it this way before here, and it was wonderful. And I still feel it now. But by people asking me today on the warm up for the call, how are you? How are you? I'm really doing pretty good. The wake was just this past Friday, and it was a tough day for his sons and his sister and some other people there, and there was some people from New York, I think, there, which was great. So, but that was and I stayed overnight, and then I drove back to Rochester. And that morning I got up and I said to Brenda, Brenda, we're going to do a couple things that I used to do when I came up here. So I drove her past where Steve lived. And then I says, Roy, because I used to come up there a lot years ago, like at least once a week for years. And then we used to go down to this diner that's right on the Hudson River, and we used to eat there all the time. And I hadn't been there for almost a couple of years. And I walked in, and the girl who's there, she's part owner or her father owns it or whatever. And as soon as I walked in, oh wow! She forgot my name. She goes, I remember you, and that made me feel good too. So that was like my final goodbye to Steve. But it was just that it was closure for me. And then we drove home, and I felt better by the time I got home. But it's that happiness that I got out of a very difficult time in my life. And for all of us, we all miss them. Yeah, did I talk to him when anybody else did? Yeah, probably. But so that doesn't make me any more special than anybody else. We all are grieving at this time about Steve. Nobody expected it like right now, and he was such a force. He was the glue that kept this whole thing together. And but I'm very, very grateful and very, very excited and just so thankful that he was in my life for over 10 years. And I'm a very lucky man to have that. And we were all lucky to meet him, to talk with him, and to feel his love and his care about us all. And believe me, he cared. And I think we all know that. But I do want to get that out. I don't want to dwell on it, but you did help me through a great time, and it made me feel with a lot of joy that I know that me and him affected everyone's life here, but you don't really think about it that much. And I start to realize that more too, about how much I have affected most of you. And it's almost overwhelming to me. I'm very humble about that, but I'm also more aware now that I am, that I do affect how you think sometimes. And that makes me feel, I'm not sure how it makes me feel sometimes, but I feel all of your support, and I think it's absolutely wonderful that I have it, and it's just a great feeling, and I feel a lot of calmness now about this, and you know, it's not that I will ever forget Steve. I will never stop loving the man, but it's time to move on, and maybe it was a good time that he died at this time of the year, because now we're starting a whole new year, and let's just go. So that takes us now into, you know, and thank you for listening to that. But let's go into this last part, because this is the part I found most interesting. Dreaming. And Franco Wild says, thinking in reverse. Dreaming is the thinking process in reverse. Dreaming is the mind's garbage disposing process. Now that's pretty powerful. Well, wait a minute. I thought dreams were always good. You know, we have our dreams of the life that we want to live, and we have our dreams about this and about that, you know. But if you start to dig in, you start to understand why Frank R. Wallace is talking this way about dreams. He says, dreams help purge the mind of unintegrated clutter, mythicism, and meaningless non-sequesters absorbed while awake. So basically, if you look at it this way, we go through a day, and most of us are in that AC world almost 24/7, okay? So at the end of the day, your mind has taken in a lot of clutter, a lot of meaningless information, a lot of mythicisms. Whether you like it or not, it's in there. So contrary to the mystical notions of Freud, dreams have no meanings or connections to reality. And that's true. A dream analysis is nothing more than feeding regurgitated clutter back into the mind. And I thought about that for a second. Basically, it's throwing clutter back into the mind. Regurgitated clutter. So that's a strange word to use there, but it's not. Because I think I read a couple of times that mainly we dream what we went through that day, what's fresh in our mind, okay? So we have all these different pieces of clutter coming in, and now we're thinking about it as we're sleeping. And has anybody here ever had a rational dream? A dream that made sense. You woke up and said, wow, what a dream I had. I dreamed I was doing this, and everything made sense, and everything was going around. It was like I was in the sea of you all day. Well, we don't have dreams like that. Usually our dreams are like, we have no idea what the hell they mean. They pop in and they pop out. All of a sudden there's this one person in dream, all of a sudden there's this other person. We're in a whole different scenario. You know, it's because it's just a clutter of mythicisms going through our mind that we experienced that day. So the more mythicism and non-sequators that crowd the mind, the more frequent and nightmarish dreams become. All right, so after a while, you know, I mean, why do we have nightmares? I mean, how many times did you wake up like startled? Because that day must have been overwhelming, because you must have thought about it a lot. And then, you know, the more frequent and nightmarish those dreams do become, and they do. But then subsequent dreams increasingly lose their therapeutic garbage disposal events. If one's dreams grew less effective in purging him and protecting the mind from clutter, the mind then becomes unable to store, integrate it, or function efficiently enough to let that person live as a happy, intelligent, productive, conscious being. if we continue to think of our day, and it's always coming up with mysticisms and a bunch of clutter, we'll never be able to move forward. So dreams are really thinking in reverse. You might have done a great job all day, but there's this, it's like, say that you come home. To be honest with you, I admire the people on this call right now who still have to go out and make a living. And you got to make it in that AC world. So for 8 hours or 6 hours or 10 hours a day, you're constantly around unintegrated people. No matter what you do, you're unintegrated in many aspects. And I know often gossip flies around or this flies around. You are part of your environment, and your environment is telling you, wow. And your mind's just, so as you ride home from work, and you're thinking about the day, and you're thinking about so-and-so said this, and then this happened, and that happened. That's all part of your dreams that night. And how many times do you know that you dreamt, but you didn't know what you dreamt? This just weighs on you every day that this happens. So dreaming is really, it's not, wouldn't it be nice, if all day you were creative, you were doing vertical thinking, you were doing horizontal thinking, and for most of the day. You think your dreams might change? Of course they would. You might then start having rational dreams. How much would that help you the next morning? Because I would write all those down. Because you're going to find some answers in those dreams. So I think it's a great way to just take an inventory of how we think today. Because everything revolves around what we think and where we are each day. So we have to put it in our, we have to try to, as they both say in these books every day, thinking pictures, thinking logic, constantly see yourself doing things, conceptual thinking. Now it's horizontal thinking, and it's and it's vertical thinking. These are the things that we have to think about. We have to constantly put these thoughts into action. We have to constantly train our brains and have that disciplined thought and control that we talked about for the last couple of weeks with Steve on this call. We have to start to say, I got to take control of my brain. I got to take control of my thoughts. And you can do it. It's not easy some days. And some days it's almost damn near impossible if you're out in that world all day. Now, lucky for me, I'm home every day. I don't have to deal with it 24 hours a day out there. But I have to go out there and live some days. So yeah, I have to deal with it, but it's small doses. And I try not to, I don't even talk to people that I have to talk to when I'm out. Because I don't want to get involved in this. People, it's just, I try to, I love them to death. I love people out there, but I just don't want to be around them that much. Because I don't want them to throw, I don't listen to the news at all on TV anymore because that was really doing damage to me. And I read about 10 to 15 minutes a day, that's all, on some news things on the internet. And some days I think that's even too much. But I do want to be aware of what's going on. I just don't need to know all the details. And every day when I listen and I just read the headlines and maybe just a sentence or two of the report, that's enough for me. And I'm thinking, nothing's ever changing. It's just getting worse. And then some days I might not listen to any of it. And it does help me. I will not watch it on the news anymore, on TV, but that's even worse because you don't even know. 95% of it's probably not even true. But they want to keep you with those thoughts. I mean, to give an idea about having a nightmare, and I was probably 11 or 12 at the time, and I remember the Cold War, and I remember the Bay of Pigs, and I believe it happened in '62. I'm pretty sure it was 1962, and I was 11 at the time, and I had this nightmare, and I can still remember today as if I just had it 5 minutes ago. And I dreamt I was sitting in the couch in our living room. We were raised in a very small house, and I had a big bay window, though. And I was sitting on the couch, and I was looking outside this bay window. And the way the house was built, I was looking east. All right, it was looking towards like Atlantic City. And I was about an hour from the ocean. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just looking outside. There's no one around. There's no one in the house that I know, and there's nobody outside. And I'm just sitting there, and I see, and I hear this big boom, and I see that mushroom just rising from a nuclear bomb being dropped. And I see this full mushroom come up in the air. And I still remember that dream. Now, that happened in 1962. That's what dreams will do. That did not make sense to me. It horrified me. For some reason, I followed the Bay of Pigs because they would just seem so important to do that. And like for those 3 days, this country, the world held their breath, not knowing if there was going to be a nuclear war or not. And then the Russians finally backed down. But it scared the hell out of me. Then we had all those drills in school and all that stuff that they made us go through. It was a very tough thing. I imagine it was tough on all of us who were about that age at that time. But that's what dreams can do to you. And I still remember that dream. That was, a few years ago, like 50-some years ago. But I would have rather had a dream at that age of this Sea of You world. And I so if I would have had a dream like that then, and it stuck with me all these years, you think my life would have been different. And if all of us had dreams like that as kids, of these great dreams that made sense and had happiness in it and had love and honesty, the way that we would like that world to be, you think we would have changed the world by now? There's no doubt in my mind we would have. And we wouldn't have even needed Neothink to do it. That's what I believe. If we were raised like that, instead of raised like we were, and I'm not saying that our parents were evil people. They weren't, because we raised our kids basically the same way that they raised us. Because we didn't know better. And that's a horrible thing to know, that we didn't know better. Our parents didn't know better. I didn't know better when my kids were being, when I was raising my two sons. And I think about it now, man, why didn't I know that? Why didn't someone tell me? Or why didn't I pursue it? But, I raised them the same way that my parents raised me. And we love our kids, right? Especially when they're young. I mean, basically, we would die for them. And yet, we raised them with all these mysticisms and all these lies, and we fed them bad food, and we took them to awful movies because we thought it was cool, and had them watch anything that they wanted to watch. It's just craziness. Because we didn't know about vertical thinking. We didn't know about horizontal thinking. We didn't know these things. And I never want to go through life like that again. So that's why I constantly want to learn. I constantly want to know these things so I can spread them, so I can tell people about them, so I won't fall backwards. I hate now not knowing something. I got to find out. And if I had more time in a day, I would know a lot more. But there's a lot of things that, I have tons, literally tens of thousands of emails in my files that I still want to get to and read. I know I will never get to all. I don't have the time. But yet, I got a boatload of knowledge sitting in these emails with all these different articles. And they're fascinating to me. And I can't get enough of them. I just got, I was able to pick out, I think it was 8 or 9 books. And I spent like $90-some on like the used book, like that's on the internet or from Amazon. And I got these 9 books. It's probably going to take me all year to read them now because I don't have a lot of time to read them. But I'm reading like 3 of them right now. Any chance I can get, I start reading them. And it's just great. It's just different perspectives of looking at the world. And they're all basically, about the Sea of You world or one's about meditation. And one's, and one's by Alan Watts, who has always been a big favorite of mine. He died many years ago, but Alan Watts had this great, fantastic mind. and he knew all about the Eastern religions, and he knows all about the Western religions. And then he starts talking about how we could all be if they weren't in our lives, or that we didn't believe in what they were saying. Basically, he was talking about a very logical world. And it's just fascinating how he does write about it. I'd love to read that stuff. I don't have that talent of being a really good author. I have written some articles, but it's not like I'm an Ernest Hemingway. And I have asked myself, why can't I write better? And I know what the answers are, and I'm trying to work through those answers now, so maybe I can be, because I still think there's a great book inside of me. But it took me up until Neothink to finally get a thought from my head to my hand, so I could write down the thought. I had all these thoughts for years about this and about that, not knowing if it was true or not, trying to find out if they were, but I could never get that thought from my brain to my hand. And Neothink helped me do that. And it was a great breakthrough for me. I was very excited about that. And I actually wrote this article, and I've got about 20 articles published on the internet. Not that, I didn't make any money or anything out of them, but yet about 6,000 or 7,000 people have read them. And I find that to me, that was this great accomplishment that I never thought I could do. All because I started learning vertical thinking and horizontal thinking. All because of Neothink and Neotech. It's all here, people. Everything that you ever wanted in your life, it's here. You just got to use this knowledge. You got to think about this knowledge. You got to put it into action, but it's here. There's a lot more to say about this. I still have a few minutes though, but it's just, again, it's Neotech Advantage number 112. Read it and just study it. And go back and read Concept 109. And then he also talks about Concept 102 for the moral responsibility and about being happy and have well-being and taking action and thinking. Go into those concepts, because those concepts that's what is the basis for the 114 advantages. And then while you're in the advantages, start reading one a day. Some of these advantages are very short, so you can read it in about a minute. And then take a couple minutes just to see if you understand it, and underline it, and study it. And some advantages are longer, so maybe take 2 days to read that one advantage. But if you take one advantage a day, if you throw some vertical thinking in it, and then you start throwing some horizontal thinking at it, and see if you can come up with a different way of looking at this that will make you understand it better. That's when you have those aha moments. That's when you know that you were thinking. That's when you did some hard thinking. And after you've done that, your brain's going to be tired. But it's a great feeling, because you just broke through something. And we all have that capability to do that. All of us. I'm not any smarter than anybody else here. I just worked harder, that's all. Steve worked harder. Because we knew that this was it. We knew that we found what we were looking for. And we both had that same message. We wanted to teach this. And I feel very lucky. I feel very honored. And I feel like Steve has felt all these years doing the Frank R. Wallace calls and these Mark Hamilton calls. And I feel the same way. I'm honored that I'm keeping all these calls alive for now. How much longer these calls will be around, we don't know yet. We should find something out soon. Obviously, the call that we are setting up for this webinar call is on hold for now because of Steve died. We can't replace him. It's just impossible to do that. So we're trying to think of some other ways that we're going to do this call, but we are going to do it. But it's on hold for a little while. There's a ripple effect of him not being here anymore. And I'm going to try my best to do as much as I can to keep this going so that we all can move forward. And a lot of people have given me a lot of encouragement over this last 2 weeks. And I thank you deeply for it. It's very humbling. It's very heartfelt. I feel it every day, and I don't want to let it go. And I'm not. I'm keeping all that love, and it feels very good, and it's making me feel better each day. But again, I had to sit down and I had to do some thinking, and I've done a lot of thinking over the holidays because I had less time to do these calls like on Monday and Tuesday for 2 weeks in a row. kind of like, this is like I'm on vacation almost. I didn't have any calls, but yet I missed them. I really did miss them. But now we are back on the regular schedule again, so I'll be back tomorrow night for all of you, for the people who come back for the Mark Hamilton family and me. That goes on tomorrow night. And then we have the Prime Cure call on Sunday night, and then Monday and Tuesday we're back, and so everything's back to normal somewhat. But it's just that let's start this year off by saying to ourselves, and try and answer this tonight or tomorrow, why can't this be the best year of your life? And start putting some vertical thinking and some horizontal thinking into that, and you'll get it. And if you do that, and if you think that way, you will have the best year of your life. And that will only be the best year of your life until the end of next year. And that year will become the best year. And it will just continually get better each year. And honestly, I've been here for 10 years, and each year has gotten better for me. Either financially one year, but maybe the next year was more spiritually, and then the next year maybe it was more of the knowledge that I learned. Or whatever, but it's always been, as I look back, how much have I progressed, and I've always went forward each year. Mainly because, it's not mainly, it is because of Neothink and Neotech. It's because of these two gentlemen that I have advanced to where I am, and it was just hard work, that's all. It was just reading these religiously, basically, every night, every day, as much as I could, and putting the pieces together. But I couldn't have done it if I didn't do some hard thinking, if I didn't do the vertical thinking. And then as I read these books, and some of it's like, well, I'm not sure what Franco Wallace means on this page. Then I go into that horizontal thinking, like he did, like they both did. To think outside the box and say, well, you know what? I'm going to think of new knowledge here that hasn't been thought about before, or hasn't been put together in this fashion. And that's what they did. And they did a wonderful job of it. We could all have that wonderful job or a wonderful life just by thinking. That's all, just by thinking. And we could change our lives and change a lot of people around us. That's the power that we have here. It's incredible, and we have to use it. And it doesn't mean they have to start a business, but it means that you can be happy. You do have this has woken me up to. We have a community here. We have the Neothink community, and it's very rewarding for a lot of us. And that's why you come to these calls, because you feel like you're part of a family, and that's great. And if Neothink has done that for you, then Neothink's a success. Because you feel that you're part of their family. But now the key is, if you want to be even happier, learn more. And don't ever stop learning. And that's when it really starts to kick in even more. So with that, I'm going to end the call because it is getting late. I'm going to go over the healing list. And again, if you have someone or
Hold on. Hi, this is Big V. That was the Thursday night lead call, the first call on Thursday night of 2019, January 3rd of 2019. As you heard, the setup for the new calls for 2019 has been put on hold because of Mr. Steve Fagan's death. By the way, no one's ever going to be able to replace Steve Fagan. And Steve Fagan will be very heartfelt missed. By the way, his death has hit me a little bit here left and right because the calls are just not the same without Mr. Steve Fagan's voice. So my thoughts are out to Steve Fagan. Hope he is doing very well wherever he may be at. So let's talk about the calls in 2019. I have real fear and real doubt with the society right now. Are the calls going to be successful? I don't know. Will the numbers hold up on the teleconference calls with the Neothink Society, the Neotech Society? That's a question in itself. The numbers were down a little bit when Steve Fagan was running the society because he was the voice for Mark Hamilton, but he's no longer here, so that puts the society at odds because Mark Hamilton and Mr. Steve Rapella have to decide what they want to do with the society and who is the new voice for Mark Hamilton come later on this year. Right now, I think it's Charlie Moore, but nothing's clear. By the way, if Steve Rapella watches this video, which I tweeted this link out of this YouTube video, I am all ears and I am open to talking with you if you're up to wanting to talk to me. I'm up and fully willing to talk to you. Now, let's talk about the 12 Visions Party, if that's going to take root in the new set of calls right now. As we know, the calls are on hold because of Mr. Steve Fagan's death, which is understandable. 12 Visions Party. I don't like it. I don't even think it should be on. It shouldn't even be on the list. And I'll tell you why it shouldn't be on the list. The support is just not there with the society. Everyone is on a different page. Everyone's on a different wavelength with the 12 Visions Party. Everyone that has ever ran the 12 Visions Party has ran it on their own agenda. Back in 2018, I shared the 12 Visions Party contract and I let you guys all see it. That 12 Visions Party contract has never been explained in detail with nitty-gritty, all aspects of it being exposed for what it is. No mentor has ever really went through that contract with a fine-tooth comb and picked out every little gray hair possible in that contract that they are so rambunctious to have members sign. My suggestion is no members should sign the 12 Visions Party contract until that thing is went through with a fine-tooth comb. And in my estimation, it needs to be went through about 3 or 4 times before anyone decides to sign it. And different people need to be, different mentors need to explain that TVP contract in detail. Let me say this. I'm not against the 12 Visions Party, but I am against the self-agendas. The people that are trying to scam people for money. The accountability of the money. There's no accountability in the society for the money that is raised. And everyone should have a right to having access as to where the money is actually really going. And is this person going to take off with the money like they've done in the past? That's the other question that needs to be thrown out there. I don't think the 12 Visions Party is going to happen in 2020. Maybe by 2028, maybe something may come down. But I don't think the 12 Visions Party has the numbers in the Neothink Society. The Neothink Society can't even get 300 members to back the TVP up right now. And that's just a base. That's not including getting money and all that stuff. Money should be left out at the time if the TVP call is going to take place again. Money should be left out of the TVP for a good length of time. Because the platform needs to be explained in detail. Okay? Then all 12 visions need to be explained in detail. Okay? Then we can get into the prime law. And then we can get into the TVP contract. And then you can get into the protection only budget and all the other little nitty gritty details of the 12 Visions Party that needs to be put out there as is. I'm a little skeptical with the Neothink Society at this present moment. I'm a little iffy that the numbers are not going to stay up. Even with the new calls, I feel at odds with what's going to happen and who are the mentors. I want to put this out here one last time. I'm a member. I have the literature just like anyone else does in the Neothink Society. Okay? I don't want someone reading any of these books to me. These books, any of them. I don't want someone reading these books to me. Okay? I want to show you some other books that I have that I don't want a mentor doing reading to me on. These books here. The Neo-Cheating, Neotech, Neothink, the Visions book up there, the Mark Hamilton Family and You book right there, and Rise of Neotech, the Prime Cure, the Prime Discovery. I have all the books here in my home. I don't want a mentor reading to me. I want them to mix it up. And if you're going to read on your own time, but don't read when I'm on the line, because I don't want to hear reading being done. That's not mentoring. Members should be able to read for themselves. Mentors should be able to go in detail on all the literature, whatever book they're going to mentor on. They should go into details and mix it up. Steve Fagan did an excellent job mixing it up. Let me put it out here. And I'm going to put it out here whether you like it or whether you don't. I don't really give a damn. There are mentors in the Neothink Society right now that are bitter, that have hard feelings towards Steve Fagan. Even though he's passed away, they are bitter and they have hard feelings towards him. They didn't like what he did. There were members that jumped to conclusions that he was jumping all over the place. Well, he was integrating and he was mixing the literature up. That's what he was doing. I don't think Steve Fagan was a bitter man. I don't think Steve Fagan was a bitter man at all. He kept it alive. He kept Neotech, Neothink alive in the society. He was the heartbeat. That's my opinion of Steve Fagan. Even though me and Steve Fagan had different viewpoints and we didn't agree with one another, he still kept it alive, and he always showed me respect. He did put me on the blackball list, where if my hand was raised, they weren't going to acknowledge me. That was proven on the last Thursday night call, or the Thursday night call on December 20th of 2018, when my hand was raised and Charlie Moore decided not to acknowledge my hand being raised. So I was put on the blackball list as far as if my hand was raised. I was not to be called upon if my hand was raised while the recording was on. So that was definitely a factor in the case. But nonetheless, Steve Fagan's no longer here. So 2019's here, and we're almost done with the very first week of 2019. And we're going to hit our first weekend of 2019, and our first Monday of 2019 is about to hit. So that's my opinions and my views and how I think. And if you got hard feelings towards Steve Fagan, let it go. Let it be. If people talk about Steve Fagan, let them talk about it. Don't shut them up. Let them talk about Steve Fagan. Let Steve Fagan come out of members' mouths If they feel like talking about him, let them talk about him. But I'll tell you this. Steve Fagan never read to us when he mentored. And for that, I'll take my hat off to him and pay my respects. Steve Fagan wanted to gel the society together. He talked about that. But that was never brought up as well. As far as the past couple weeks have gone, that has never been brought up. Whether the society is going to gel together or not, I have not a clue. So the society, the Neothink Society, is kind of a divided society. And the numbers, what are they going to look like? I grind my teeth and hope my teeth stay in my mouth. I fear for the numbers. And I think Steve Rapella and Mark Hamilton would understand why. Mr. Steve Rapella has viewed my profile on one of the websites. So I take it that he's read some of the comments that I've made about the 12 Visions Party. He's read some of the comments and probably saw some of the videos that I put on another website. So I know Steve Rapella has kept tabs on me as well. So that's no secret. I have a right to voice my opinion and my views, whether a mentor or mentors like it or not. And if you don't like it, guess what? You can stick it. All right, this is Big V. I just wanted to express my point of view, what I think, what's going through my head. I wanted to share it with you and the general public. And by the way, my event that will be taking place on Wednesday morning, January 9th of 2019, back on social media, my live event that I do, that I'm on a camera like I am here, and I talk and I share some other clips with the general public on social media. So YouTube is not the only place I do this on. So how you like that? And if you don't like it, tough. Deal with it. All right. This is Big V. Happy 2019. Hope it's a success for you, brother or sister. And I'll see you around. And Friday night, January 4th, 2019, Mark Hamilton, family, and you, I'll be back. Probably around 11 o'clock at night to play the replay of the Mark Hamilton, family, and you. I'll see you later. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.